welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name is Jerri Walker, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. And this segment of our Mental Health Monday is called Unscripted Story. And as you know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so I thought it would be really wonderful if someone would come and tell their story. And today we're going to hear one woman's story of how this unscripted event entered her life and how she is coping with it. Please join me in welcoming Vicky Page. So nice to have you here, Vicky. So, to get us started, tell us about what happened and when and what that was like.
So, I am currently being treated for stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. This is actually my second bout with breast cancer. In 2002, I was diagnosed, found a lump in my breast, and it was breast cancer, and so I had treatment for that. I was 44, had a lumpectomy and chemo and radiation, and then was fine. And so that was I was younger, my children were in grade school and junior high at the time, I was working full-time. It was startling to find out. I remember being asked at one point, did I want a referral to a support group, which is pretty common. And I didn't feel like I needed it really at the time, not an official support group, because I had so much support from my family and friends and church involvement. So fast forward, got through all of that, and then fast forward 13 years. In 2015, I noticed that there was something going on with the same breast that I'd had the lumpectomy in. And so I was really paying attention to it. I was not working at the time, so I didn't have any insurance. So that was a little bit scary.
Oh, my word.
At any rate, I had to go. I had to go get treatment and find out what was going on. And what I learned was that I had inflammatory breast cancer. Inflammatory breast cancer is maybe about 5% of women that get breast cancer have inflammatory breast cancer. It's the most aggressive and rarest of breast cancers. It does not present itself in the same way. You normally do not have a lump in your breast. It's often misdiagnosed as an infection because it spreads quickly and goes into the skin and the surrounding tissue and everything. So it's kind of diffused in a way, I guess I would say. That's why there's no lump usually. And the fact that I had had surgery before, so it didn't, there was scar tissue already. But fortunately for me, the surgeon that I went to see recognized it immediately for what it was, which is really great, because if it's misdiagnosed and you're going for 5, 6, 7 months without a diagnosis of this, and as aggressive as it is, that can really cause problems for women.
So I always read that early detection is a lifesaver.
Mm-hmm.
So in both of these cases, and so oh my gosh, Vicky, you've been dealing with breast cancer now did you have a period where in the middle of that you were totally cancer-free?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you did have some years where, okay,
yeah.
And then this new diagnosis was in 15.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you first heard that word in 2002,
Mm-hmm.
do you recall what happened? What did you do with that?
It's such a surreal sensation.
Yeah.
I had no history of breast cancer in my family. which actually probably 70% of women that get breast cancer have no history in their family. I mean, there wasn't any cancer, really. I had a cousin that had breast cancer, but she was not a close, we were not closely related, not like a sister or aunt sort of thing. So it just seems like, how can this be? What did I do? I remember coming home from an appointment and pulling up in front of my house and starting to cry. And the reason, not so much that I was afraid of the cancer, but I didn't want to be a statistic for breast cancer. It was just the weirdest thing. But I felt that I had really good medical care, which is so important. I was fortunate in having good insurance. And so, my outlay was pretty minimal. And as I said, I had really good support through, members of church, the women that were in my circle, so to speak, and my family too. My oldest boy was, I think 7th grade, and he asked me, "Mom, are you going to get a second opinion?" And I just thought that was so mature of him, to ask. So people around me were not freaking out or acting scared, and so that was really helpful.
Were you able just to talk to your family about it? It sounds like you're 2nd grader then. You were able just to say, here's what is happening. And how did that then change how you work together as a family? Do you think it did? Were you able to stay that transparent throughout?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have a pretty good open communication. We were aware. I think being educating yourself about what it is that you're dealing with is so helpful, because when we're afraid of things, it's usually because we don't know. It's fear of the unknown, right? So learning about what the treatment's going to be like, what can you or might you expect in the future, is really important. And so that the communication also with your medical team is super important. But yeah, I was able to to talk with the kids, and I've got a daughter and then 3 sons, and they were like, I don't know, 8th grade to 2nd grade, I think, about at the time. I think the youngest, Andy, his big concern was they wondered if my hair was going to fall out. Because they've got questions, right?
Of course.
And I said, I don't know. I think so, but I don't know for sure. Depends on the medication that you take, because it's different depending on what your cancer makeup is. And Andy, the youngest, said, because there was a little girl that was at our church that had brain cancer, and so they were aware of cancer also because of that. And Andy says, he goes, "Well, Mom, I hope that your hair doesn't fall out, because baldness on women, not so good."
Well,
so those sorts of things inject some levity to help make it not so serious sometimes. I mean, yes, it is serious, but you have to be able to laugh, I think, about stuff.
And so you fast forward then to 2015. What was that, just totally out of the blue then, this new diagnosis?
Yeah, I took a hormone cancer, Arimidex, for 10 years, and So it was 13 years after my original diagnosis, which I thought was kind of funny. No expectation that I should have cancer again. But as I said, some changes were going on in my breast, and because I had breast cancer, I was really alert to it. So when I saw the surgeon and he said, this is what it is, inflammatory breast cancer, and, by the way, a few years back, we would have told you to get your affairs in order. That's very sobering, and it just really sets you back. But I don't recall ever, and this is a little bit like the first time too, you feel a little bit like you're on a runaway train, because you gotta be having the treatment, you gotta start moving forward, and you've got all these appointments with different doctors, medical teams, and you hardly have time to even think about what's happening, much less, ponder on it too much. I knew that it was serious, and there wasn't really much online about inflammatory breast cancer. There is more now, and I belong to a Facebook group that is specific to inflammatory breast cancer, which has been so helpful. To see what sort of treatments other women are going through, because there's just a myriad of different ways that it impacts women and age-wise and so on and so forth. It was scary. It's scary.
Yes, it is scary.
Mm-hmm.
You are surviving every day, and somehow you're doing that. So when you referenced the first bout, you talked about community and family and church, and today, is it the same? Have you discovered other ways that you do self-care, that you find support? How are you navigating it now?
Yeah, it's different, because first time I was in Washington State, in Seattle, Tacoma area, Auburn, which I grew up in Seattle, so I had my family, my friends around established. We moved to Idaho in 2005, and so this time I didn't have the same, what do I want to say, support system, I guess. I mean, yes, church still, and a few friends, and that doesn't, and I'm, so thankful for technology that allows, us to be able to be in connection with friends, family that are not just, close by. It's been harder because it's a more serious diagnosis. My treatment's lasting longer, and so I did go get, counseling. Go to counseling. I believe strongly in that, and so that's been helpful. And as I said, this Facebook group that I belong to is very helpful. While it's it's super serious, I also recognize for myself, I've been really fortunate that I don't, I mean, it's stage 4. It's metastasized into my skin, fortunately not into any interior organs. I have a PET scan tomorrow, and Tuesday I have a brain MRI, because we do these on a regular basis just to make sure that it's not, going someplace else. The skin metastasis for me is kind of more of an irritation than anything else. I don't You know, there are women that have skin mets that have awful sores and wounds and stuff like that. It would probably be, I'm sure that it would be different for me if I was younger too. It's a lot different when you're in your 30s hearing that you have to have a mastectomy than when you're in your, you know, late 50s. And not that, I mean, there's still an impact, but it's, for me at least, it's not the same, you know, it's not the same thing.
And how is your family hearing and
they're
dealing with
good.
this?
My husband, you know, he, I don't know, sometimes I think it's scarier for him than it is for me. I don't know if that's normally the case. You know, it's hard when you're the person that's dealing with a diagnosis, an illness, or something else. You're dealing with it, and you're kind of busy with you know, you're busy with having to deal with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's the other supporting, the supporting cast, let's say, that doesn't have, they don't have any control, you know, either. And so what exactly do they do? I mean, my husband's very supportive, and he's gone to many appointments with me. That's good for him so that he can also hear what's going on. Or, you know, just if I forget to ask something, you know, then he can. My children, of course, are supportive and, you know, and ask how I'm doing and everything. And one of my sons, I was saying something about, well, I know it's not that bad. I don't have it as bad as some women do, many women. But it's still there, and I don't remember which one it was, but he goes, well, Mom, he goes, you still have breast cancer, and it's okay to be concerned about that. It doesn't really matter what's going on with other women. This is still your struggle, your you know, your reality, and so that was really helpful. It really gave me permission.
That's exactly the word I was thinking. He really just zeroed in on that permission to say, no, this is, you are going through this now. And when you think of that, is there anything else that you, when you go there, that you could say, I really need? Is there anything that comes to your mind right now?
It's okay. It's okay to feel. It's okay to feel tired and discouraged sometimes. It doesn't mean that I'm failing in any sort of way. I mean, I like to be in control of things, and I'm an active person, and so in many ways this has not really slowed me down. I still do much of, you know, what I did before, and I strongly recommend to women to be involved. You know, to not, if it's at all possible, to not sink into a morass of, I don't know, of sadness and everything. I mean, it does not mean that you should not be afraid or feel sad or discouraged or anything at times, because we're just going to. But if we stay engaged in life and involved with people around us, and talk to our friends or talk to our you know, family, to our doctors, and, you know, and ask the questions and everything, that for me helps me to to move forward. I think we
Yes.
just really have to feel like we can move forward, that we're not just stuck.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I believe you just spoke to a lot of women who are, maybe they have an appointment this week, or they have been diagnosed and they're trying to navigate this. And it's not just women, it's men too.
Yes, yes.
And thank you for saying that it's okay to have those moments of despair, of paying attention to those very, very private and yet dark and sad feelings that you would have. And also knowing what you do to step from there back into engagement.
Mm-hmm.
That teeter-totter, you know,
Mm-hmm.
of importance of managing, I would think that is so important in keeping health
Mm-hmm.
in front of you, and knowing that, yes, it's okay to be here, but I can also have within me the power and control, because as you said so many times, when illness happens, control just goes out the window, because it's that train. I gotta hop on it. I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. And so that reminder that control can come back in ways in your life,
Mm-hmm.
in what you choose to do, is so, what a wonderful message. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because I just know you're reaching a lot of people that are very anxious right now.
Yeah, and especially with with the coronavirus and all, and so we
Exactly.
have more isolation
Yes.
than we might otherwise. And I don't think that there's ever a time where isolation is a good thing for a long period of time. And I'm not suggesting that we jump out there and start going to restaurants and without our mask and everything. That's not the message. But just that, yeah, we just have to keep our connections with people and
Yes.
and just share what's going on inside of us. That's not always easy to do. And sometimes, like I said, it's okay to just, there's times when it's like, I just want to lay in bed and look out the window and go, woe is me, but it doesn't last for very long, because I'm not, you don't really achieve anything that way.
Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right, especially now with this pandemic, more than ever. It takes that little bit more energy,
Mm-hmm.
but it is still so important to stay connected.
Yeah, the benefit there's just so much benefit to that. When I had breast cancer the first time, our church had commissioned, actually my son-in-law, he wasn't my son-in-law at the time, but commissioned this gentleman to write a musical. And he did, called The Prodigal. And so I was involved in The Prodigal, and my hair came out,
Wow.
and I just incorporated that into my role, and I did henna tattoos on my head. and I might get some real tattoos, but then I chickened out because I thought it would hurt too much on the skull. And so people were just like, wow, how do you do this? And I was like, how do I not do this? Because I can't just stay in my bedroom in a dark place. That's not my nature, but it's also not helpful. It's not going to help me heal. And so, so the same thing this time. I'm not in a musical now, but, yeah. Yeah.
Well, Vicky, I just so appreciate you being willing to do this interview. Not only are you a survivor once, but you're surviving every day with a new diagnosis. And that vulnerability of being able to continually tell your story is so refreshing. And I believe wholeheartedly that it is when we are able to do that, that we do keep current with the stuff that tends to build up in us. And we make it real. And every time we do that, as you have done so well today in sharing your story, you have just given permission to others who have been diagnosed or are fearing that call from the doctor, that telling their story is a part of what will keep them healthy during this time. And I really, this is an intimate story for you, and I so appreciate you being willing to be here today and to share with us. And is there anything that you would like to say that maybe just to anyone out there that you have discovered or that you hope for them?
It is a really personal story. Breast cancer is one of the most treatable forms of cancer, so that's a good thing. But it's still very personal. It's it's part of what our breasts as women, and probably men. I can't speak for men, but men do get breast cancer. My husband's best friend had breast cancer, which was interesting. But it is very personal, and it is scary. But we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to be afraid of that. I do hope that by sharing what I've gone through, that we can all find a place to be able to smile, to hug each other, to cry, to laugh even. Because it is just a journey, and any journey is not, the nature of a journey is that we're moving forward. It's not a stagnant place. And going through a cancer diagnosis and treatment is not a stagnant place either. We move on the best that we can, and one of the ways I think is to support each other and to give each other permission for all of those things, to laugh and cry and be afraid and be brave. I hope that I'm an example, a good example, to other people that get this diagnosis, and it'll be okay.
Thank you, Vicky. You are the example. This is amazing that you were willing to do this today, and I thank you. And let us know, as friends, as your church, what else we can do. Because sometimes friends go, I don't know what to do.
Yes.
And so that is where it's really helpful if you can say, hey, this is what I need. And we want to hear from you. We also want to hear from you as well if you are going through a difficult time and have received a very scary diagnosis or are anticipating that visit. Please let us know. Here at the Cathedral of the Rockies, we have a care team. I am available. My email address will be posted. Also, during this time of the pandemic, it is reported that so many are not going to get screenings. And more than ever, it is important. Over a quarter of a million women received this diagnosis in 2019. So it is so very important that you call your healthcare provider, get your appointment, and get in there. They will make sure it is safe. And early detection is everything. So I really can't stress that enough. And again, Vicky, thank you. And we just appreciate you watching also, and reach out to us if you need anything along those lines, or whatever is going on in your world and you need support. The church is here. Please let us know. Thank you.